Welcome back to science. Today we're learning about macromolecules. Macromolecules. Which I guess that's appropriate because a lot of these macromolecules that we're going to talk about are your food. So let's kind of get right into it. I think I have an old video about this. Hopefully this will be better. In this one I'm wearing a plaid shirt, so that's already an improvement. It's fall. Wait, hold on, I forgot where I am. It's fall, y'all! Anyway, look, macromolecules. Listen, if you like and subscribe, you'll get more of this amazing content. I know. I think I just lost subscribers by saying that. Okay, anyway, nope, don't worry about that. Don't y'all worry. So who cares? I get this question all the time about lots of different subjects. I care. You should care. You should care about these things we learn about in science. Let's just put this in perspective, why we should care about science. There are people right now who are trying to say the earth is flat. So maybe science is important. They knew the earth was round in Christopher Columbus's time. That wasn't a thing. Like, they made globes. Okay, we're not going to go there. That's frustrating. Why should you know about macromolecules? Well, most of them, like I said, are the food that you eat. So it's kind of helpful to know like what we put into our bodies, because then we can kind of use it to understand why our bodies do different things, or why we feel a certain way, or why do some people get diabetes or heart disease. And then later when we talk about genetics, like you might hear people being predisposed for those things, like me. My family has heart disease and diabetes and cancer on like all sides. So yeah, I probably actually should eat healthier. Let me just go ahead and drink some of my coffee here. Oh yeah. Anyway, these macromolecules, biomolecules, they make up you and every other living thing on the planet. So since we're studying biology, the study of life, we should really kind of go really tiny to try to understand what are the things that make up all living things and how is that different and what properties do they have so they can tell us about living things. And they're going to come up a bunch of times. We're made of them. So you'll see these things kind of pop up, or you'll hear about proteins or DNA or energy and sugar and carbs when we talk about respiration, photosynthesis. So it's good to know them. What exactly do you need to know? Now, I'm going to give you a life pro tip that you might not take. I really recommend making a chart of these. We're going to talk about 4 main biomolecules, macromolecules, polymers. They have lots of names that we can kind of use interchangeably. It's probably not correct to use them interchangeably exactly, but whatever. We're going to use some of them interchangeably. Carbs, lipids, proteins, nucleic acids. I would say make a chart with those 4 things going up and down. And then in your columns, we're going to put the properties that we need to know about them. So what do you need to know? I tried to list it out here. You need to know, so these macromolecules are large molecules made up of building block molecules called monomers. Mono means one. Remember, kids, like a monorail. Mono means one, and rail means rail. And that concludes our intensive 6-week study about monorails. Someone's going to watch this, one of my friends, or maybe you, and you're going to get these amazing jokes that I slide in here. But more likely it'll be someone my age, because anyway. Okay, so anyway, mono means one. Monomer is like a simple single building block of these big macromolecules. Macro means big. So if you have like a macro lens on a camera, it's like that. Picture like a big lens on your phone, okay? So it's a big lens. So macro means large. Micro means small, like a microscope. You're looking at tiny things. Look at all this knowledge I'm dropping on you guys today. I mean, again, amazing content for free. Subscribe. Okay, anyway, so you need to know the building blocks, also called monomers, of all these macromolecules. You need to know the job that they do in living things. So what role do they fill? What are they doing in us? You need to know what monomer matches with what macromolecule or polymer. So you need to know that they match up. For example, I will tell you Carbohydrates, the macromolecule, matches with simple sugars, the monomer. Okay, you need to know that those go together. You need to know examples of them. So if someone says the red parts of meat, you need to know that's protein. Okay, so you need to know examples of these. You need to know what elements make them up. So I really recommend you making a chart. And in the columns have things like elements, job, monomer, examples, that sort of thing. So you have it all listed out right there so you can kind of quiz yourself. I know you're going to be like, I'm not doing that. Well, okay. I mean, I don't know. I can't make you. I mean, if we were in class, I could make you. And we kind of did a simple one. You can always add to that one. I really, really recommend that because it's going to help you have a place to like look at this information and study. So let's get right into it. Oh, my head's covering up good old glucose. Yeah, my head covers up a lot of stuff, I guess, every time I do these videos, right? Okay, so let's talk about carbohydrates. Carbs. Okay, you probably have heard people talk about carbs. Carbs are the enemy. You know, do the Atkins diet, do the, what do they call it now? Keto, the ketogenic diet. You guys don't need to worry about that. People my age need to worry about that. You don't. Okay, but anyway, carbs. Another word, a scientific word for them is polysaccharide. What a fancy word. Poly means many. Like maybe you learned in history class about different people who are polytheistic. That's people who believe in many gods. If you believe there's one God, it's monotheistic. Remember, mono means one, and rail means rail. Monorail, one rail. You're going to remember what a monorail is by the end of this, but whatever. Okay, so another word for carbohydrate is polysaccharide. The building blocks are called monosaccharides. Well, that's kind of easy to remember, I guess. Polysaccharide, monosaccharide. They can also be called simple sugars. And glucose, where my head is blocking, is an example of one. When I was your age, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but when I was your age, we actually had to memorize the shape of glucose for our biology class. Here's a glucose, sort of, right here. And we had to like draw it out. I remember that. My teacher was Mr. Jubilis. Yeah, he made us memorize that. We probably had to. It's probably a state requirement, but this is a different state and a different time. So you don't need to memorize the shape of glucose, but you should know the chemical formula of glucose. This is why I need an editor. And I need that sweet YouTube money so that way I can get an editor. Glucose, the chemical formula is C6H12, I don't have 12 fingers, O6. Okay, C6H12O6, that's glucose. You should know that. It's going to come up. It's going to come up again when we talk about photosynthesis. So you really do need to know that. That's a thing. You need to know it. All right. So that's the building block, the monomer. Stop rushing. Think before you speak. I'm working on it. Okay. Monosaccharides, or simple sugars, are the monomer of carbohydrates, or polysaccharides. These words can be kind of used interchangeably. So what do they do in you? Well, in our body, carbs and sugars are our main source of quick energy. So if you want to, I always tell people, okay, well, what would you give a little kid to make them hyper? And they'll be like, a lollipop, sugar. I'm like, yeah. So what does sugar do in us? It provides energy. It gives us energy. Okay, so that's how I remember. Quick energy. Our body can take it and break it down and turn it to energy like fast. Other things that we eat also can give us energy, but that's like a longer process. So this is the quick source of energy. This seems like it's an unimportant thing, but a lot of times on these tests, they'll say, which is the source of quick energy? They use that term. Okay, whatever. We should just know it that way then. So there are quick energy. What about plants, though? Here's a plant. It's not real. It's not really a plant. It's a pen. Isn't that cool? I know you're like, no. Okay, I'll stop. All right. Yeah, now I'm cool. I wish. Okay. But in a plant, the carbs are the plant's body. So like the leaves, the fruit and vegetable part that they produce, those are made of carbohydrates. A lot of times, if you're talking about the leaves of the plant, they're made up of a carb called cellulose. We can't digest cellulose. Our bodies can't do that. But when you talk about bread, for example, that is a carbohydrate called amylose. Amylose and cellulose are almost exactly molecularly the same, except one is kind of like all in a row, and then the other one, the building blocks are kind of, each one is flipped going through. One we can eat and digest, the other we can't. Isn't that weird? The body is weird. Life is weird, man. That's why I love science. That's why you should love science too. There's a lot of weird, cool things. So what are examples? Bread, pasta, cellulose, starch, amylose. Okay, those are all examples. And the elements that make them up are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. That's where the name comes from. Carbo for carbon, hydrate, water, right? Don't you think of hydrate and water? Well, the proportion of these elements, there's usually 1 to 2 hydrogens to 1 oxygen. So for every one of these, there's 2 H's. So you can see the H2O in there. That's where the name comes from, carbohydrate. C6H12 2 times, and then O6. Get it? Scientists actually sometimes come up with good names for things. Like, that's actually a good one. All right, so that's carbs. Now let's talk about lipids. Don't tell someone their lipids are looking nice, because if they know that it means fat, then their feelings might get hurt. Okay, my lipids are looking strong today. Anyway, so lipids are fats. And I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't want those. Those are bad. No. Okay. Lipids do a lot of jobs in our body. I skipped one, but that's okay. They help store energy. So when you're eating food, you go to McDonald's and stuff, and you're like, oh, I'm full. I feel great. And I just had like the biggest French fries and a Diet Coke, and I'm the happiest person. Now I'm going to take a nap. Okay. Well, in your food, the energy that's stored in your food and the chemical bonds of foods we call calories. And if you don't use as many calories as you take in, your body is going to say, well, I'm going to store those calories. I might need those later. And so it gets stored as fat. So fat is long-term energy storage. You can burn that fat and turn it into energy. Our bodies can do that, but it's stored there long-term. We would have to go through all of the calories we took in before we're going to use that long-term storage, which is why once you put on fat on your body, it can be hard to lose that. You have to do some different things. At your age, don't worry about being thin, fat, whatever. I know it's a thing. I know I'm not young anymore, sadly, but at your age, you don't need to worry about, I'm fat, I'm thin, I'm this. When I was your age, I thought I was fat, and I look at pictures, I'm like, oh my gosh, no, I was not. So don't worry about that. You know what you need to worry about? Being healthy. Okay? One thing that we're doing that I don't like, that I want you to try to get away from, we're stuck online sitting in front of the computer all day. You should, during your break time, try to get up, walk around. If you can get outside, do something. If you have any little weights in your house, lift some weights. Be active for some time during the day, please. Okay? That's being healthy. If you have a choice to eat food, and we're stuck in the house all day, so you can just sit and snack. Try not to do those things, okay? That's not healthy for your body and can put on fat when your body shouldn't be doing that, okay? I'm not saying, oh, this is bad, that's bad. We can be body positive, okay? You're all beautiful to me. That's true, okay? So just be active, be healthy, okay? Don't freak out about, I'm too fat, I'm this, I'm thin. Okay, don't worry about that. Just worry about trying to be healthy and make healthy choices. So that way, when you get to be my age, you don't have to really think too much about diabetes and heart disease and stuff. Anyway, so that was a long aside. Sorry. Okay, so lipids store energy. They can help store heat. So if there's a big old whale, they've got blubber. That's their lipids, their fats. And that blubber helps store heat in their body so they can swim in these freezing, not totally freezing because then it would be ice, Arctic waters and not die. They also help cushion your organs. So thanks, fat. You know what else they are? Fats, lipids, are part of every cell membrane in your body. They're called phospholipids. I hope we can come back. I hope we can come back soon because we're going to do a fun lab about cell membranes. It's going to be great. I'll do a demonstration. You can always do it in your house because you can use common household items. But anyway, so they're part of every cell membrane in your body. So fat isn't bad. It's essential. A lot of the lipids we'll be talking about will be made up of a glycerol and 3 fatty acids. So fats don't really have a monomer. They're a little weird, but you can think of them as this is their building blocks. So of course my head's in the way. I'll move my head actually. Well, I can't move my head. I'll move this lovely diagram so you can see a little bit better. Okay, sorry. This is a triglyceride, a common type of fat. It's made of glycerol, that's the blue part, and 3 fatty acids right here. Also, please be careful and speak clearly when you're saying fatty acid, or else someone in your house is going to be like, what did you just say to me? And we're going to avoid getting in trouble. Okay. So what are some examples? Fat, you don't say. Fat's an example of fat. Thanks, Miss Huff. No problem. I'm here with answers. Oils and wax. I've seen on these final exams that you guys take, I've heard, when they're looking for examples of lipid, oftentimes they'll put wax because that's, of course, one that nobody thinks of. Think of like wax paper, or if you've ever like touched candle wax, it kind of will get on your skin and kind of waterproof your skin. Fats and oils and water don't mix, right? So that kind of can maybe help you remember wax is also a lipid. Just like carbs, they're made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So let's try to think for a minute, and you can pause the video after I ask this question. You can try to think. If we have these same 3 elements, how do we get something like 2 big molecules that are totally different? Oil is nothing like bread. How do we get that, like 2 very different chemicals from the same elements? Take a minute to puzzle that out and think about it. Did you pause? Really do that. Think. It doesn't hurt to think, okay? It really doesn't. It's good to think. All right. So let me give you an answer. If you look, these elements are arranged in different orders, and there's different amounts of each element. That's going to cause them to be different. So just like I can take wood and nails and screws and whatever, and I can make maybe a chair, I could also take that same wood and nails and stuff and make a doghouse. Okay, it's just I use different amounts and I build them in different ways. Okay, so hopefully that helps you understand a little bit of this basic chemistry. Oh yeah, let's talk about different types of fats for a second. They can be saturated or unsaturated. Maybe you know, like people are like, oh, that's bad fat. That's like, when you go to KFC, that's like off the chain. Okay, so saturated fat is like animal fat. It's solid fat. There's some butter or lard. Oof. Don't eat that. Don't go to the fair and get deep fried butter. Would not recommend. I haven't tried it, but I'm not going to recommend it. It's the white part of meat. People call it the bad fat. And then we have unsaturated fat, and those generally come from plants. Those are usually plant fat or oils. And that's the good fat. Okay, don't sit there and eat a stick of butter. Don't sit there and like just drink spoonfuls of oil. That's bad. Don't do those things. All right. But unsaturated fats, our bodies can like process a little bit easier, and they're going to stick in us and stick in our arteries a little bit less. All right, now let's talk about proteins. Oh my gosh, proteins. I could probably do an entire video just about proteins. I bet that there is a college course that's literally just on proteins. You could have that. They are so complex and amazing and do so many varied and crazy jobs in our bodies that you could talk about them for days. Proteins for days. So let's just spend 5 minutes talking about them. All right. So proteins, their building blocks are called amino acids. Why aren't they iso acids? Shut up, Miss Huff. Okay, that's fair. All right. But anyway, they're called amino acids. Sometimes little bits of proteins will be called polypeptides. Why? Because the bond the amino acids form is called a peptide bond. So many of those peptide bonds would be a polypeptide. I want to make sure you guys see that because they could write that word down. They could say polypeptide, and I don't want you to be confused by that. proteins have many, many, many jobs. So what do I put in my chart? I'll try to explain some a little bit later. But it's not the next slide. I haven't changed it. You'd think I would have changed it, but I didn't. Well, I'll give you some examples. They're your muscles. Oh, yeah. Check that out. Definitely not. Hold on. Wait a minute here. Got to bring out the big guns. Okay, sorry. I don't want to intimidate you guys. This is the science show, not the gun show. I'm hilarious today. It's Friday. Turn up. Okay, anyway, it's your muscles. So meat, when you eat meat, that's muscle. The white part of egg is protein. The antibodies that your white blood cells produce to fight disease. Enzymes that build things in your body and break down things like food. Those are all proteins. Some hormones that your body produces are proteins. They have lots and lots and lots of different jobs. They do many things in our bodies. In fact, if plants are made of carbs, then we're made of protein. So you can think of it that way. Proteins are very important for us, for animals. Examples, like I said, are right here. Meat, muscles, enzymes. So how do we get so many of these jobs that proteins do? Why are these such like a multi-purpose molecule? I'm glad you asked. Well, there are there's 20 different amino acids. Okay, so these amino acids can be put in whatever order and built into these different structures. Think of amino acids like letters, and they can be arranged in ways to form words. And we can form many, many, many different words from just 26 letters. Well, we can form many, 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 many different proteins from 20 amino acids. So that's why they have so many different jobs. The way that they arrange themselves and get attached together will make them curl up or form into these flat sheets and fold in on each other and make these crazy shapes like this stuff that's coming out of my head over here. So their complex shape allows them to do whatever job they do, just like the different shapes of tools let them do their job. Like a hammer has one shape, it lets it hit a nail. A screwdriver has a different shape, it lets you screw and unscrew things. A wrench has a different shape, it lets you tighten things. So their shape allows them to do a job. The protein shape lets it do certain jobs. Okay, so definitely, if you are interested in that, you can look more into that. There's probably tons of really good videos that can show you and explain to you this. I'll try to find another video about proteins or this kind of stuff and post it for you. It's very interesting. So take a look at the elements that make it up. Carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and now we've added nitrogen. Okay, think back to the nitrogen cycle. This is where that really important nitrogen that we can't breathe in comes in. This is what's making us up. Well, I told you we're made of protein, so we need nitrogen. Thanks, nitrogen. Thanks, nitrogen cycle. Thanks, nitrogen fixing bacteria. We gotta show our gratitude. We gotta express that. Make the world a better place. Positive. I'm trying. Let's all try. I'm trying to. How about nucleic acids? How about that? I'm going to move myself in this picture up eventually. But first, let's talk about nucleic acids. Oh my gosh, do I love nucleic acids. We're going to spend so much time talking about them when we talk about genetics. So learn them. Remember them. If you forget, come back to this part of the video. Do it. Nucleic acids, I think, are I don't know what my favorite is. Miss Huff, you have a favorite biomolecule? I can't decide. I was going to say proteins because they're cool, but I think it's DNA, nucleic acids. Anyway, so nucleic acids are not like a food example. I can't give you a food example because it's not food, but they're in your food. So like if you eat a strawberry, you're eating all of that strawberry's carbs, but you're also eating the DNA inside of its cells. So you're eating all the DNA, nucleic acids as well. So it's not a food itself, but it's in the food you eat. So the examples of nucleic acids would be like DNA and RNA. This will come later, but I always try to tell people to think of DNA like this big, long instruction manual or a big cookbook. And then RNA is like if you pulled out one recipe from the cookbook or one set of instructions from this big manual. Okay, so That's DNA and RNA. We'll get way more into it later, but I think that's a good analogy for you to kind of keep in the back of your head. The building blocks of these awesome molecules are called nucleotides. Thank goodness. Finally, one that's really easy to remember. Nucleic acid, nucleotide. It just makes sense that they go together. Something easy. Now, the nucleotide itself, I'm going to show this to you. I'll move my head. I can't move my head. I got to move the picture. We'll move it back at another day and time. There we go. Here's a nucleotide. This is a picture of the building block of those nucleic acids, DNA and RNA. So if we zoom way, way, way in and we're looking at like just this yellow piece and part of the gray, that's right here. This would be the yellow piece. This would be the gray. Okay, a nucleotide is made up of a sugar, pentose sugar, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, it's like a pentagon, 5 sides. That's not that important. And a phosphate. And then this nitrogen base. This is going to come back and be an important thing later. I feel like on the end of course test that you guys take, that they have asked students in the past to label a nucleotide. So this is something I want you to see and be familiar with. If you want to take a second and draw this picture in your notebook, I really recommend that. Let's go back and appreciate my high school biology teacher, Mr. Jublis. He was a cool guy. I have fun memories of being in that class. My BFF, what's up, Phelan, was in that class with me. She always turned around in her seat and she would get in trouble. Remember that? I do. And I wouldn't, because I think she's still mad at me about that. But he told me how to remember this, and it must have been a good way to remember it, because I still remember it however many years later. A lot of years. Oh my gosh. It's been a lot of years. I'm not going to tell you how many, but I just thought of how many. And I'm a little sad. Okay. So he would always say, this is the home plate. And here's a guy standing on home plate holding up a baseball. Because he just caught the game-winning ball, to get the guy out. And this, I know, is like a flag, but he drew it as kind of like a baseball mitt. So he's got the glove in this hand and the ball in this hand. He's standing on home plate. So the home plate is the sugar. The baseball is the phosphate. And then this is the all-important nitrogen base. So there you go. That's what a nucleotide looks like and is made up of. So what's the job of these awesome molecules? They store information. Like what? Like instructions to build you or me or a flower or a cactus or a bug or a dog. I don't know, anything. Okay, a bacterial cell. Examples, like I said, are DNA and RNA. Oh, and these are made of CHOMP, CHON and P, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and phosphorus. I mean, it's literally right there. Okay, so the amoeba sisters and other people have always gone cho, chon, chomp. I've heard other people say that too. And these are, if I go back just really fast, some of these amino acids will have sulfur in them. Really haven't talked about them. So the main elements of living things, I've heard people say it schnapps, like CHNOPS instead of chnops or whatever. I've heard it in different ways. So the main elements that make up all living things, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, phosphorus, sulfur. Okay, sulfur's not on there, Miss Huff. Okay, I get it. It's very, very small quantities compared to the other ones, but it's also very important. It's in our proteins. Okay, so let's just take a look. We'll review this, and then that'll be it. I think this is a longer video. Sorry. It's not so bad. I've been trying to be entertaining and failing. Okay. All right, that's fair. It's fair. But okay. It's more entertaining in class, all right? I'm not a YouTube star. I don't have a video editor. I'm not cool like that. Do you want this to be on the screen the whole time? All right, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at these. Let's review. This is the serious one of me. Okay, I are very serious. All right. So, take a look up there. Yeah, up there. Right there. Okay, take a look at those. So let's look at the building blocks and let's match them up. Okay, so we've got our monosaccharides or sugars. They're going to match with these polysaccharides or carbs. We have our amino acids. They're going to match with proteins. Glycerol and fatty acids. Technically, it's not really a monomer, but yeah. that's going to match with our lipids. And then we have our nucleotides matching with our nucleic acids. And then we could probably talk a long time about amino acids and nucleotides because they're awesome. See, all I need to do is spend all my time animating me, and then you won't have to see me. You'll see a little cartoon, which I think is way more interesting and cool. Right? Okay, maybe not. Surprise, it was me. It's me, Austin. It was me all along. This is kind of what I was telling you about with the nucleotide nucleic acid. Again, nucleotides are made up of a sugar, phosphate, and base. When we talk again about DNA and genetics, this is going to come back and be very important. So I can't stress enough for you to know about this. The important part of the DNA are these nitrogen bases. There's 4 of them. We're not going to talk about those right at this moment because I don't want to add too much on your plate because this is kind of a lot. But the order that these bases go in, that's what makes you different from me, and that's it. That's really it. This is why all those things when people get mad at people for looking a certain type of way or being different, it's crazy because we're pretty much exactly the same except for the order of these letters. Anyway, what about amino acids? My head's in the way. Yeah, I'm just like that. Okay, there. Not in the way anymore. Okay, here's a picture of an amino acid. So, why are they called this? We have an amine group. That's right here. And then we have an acid group, COOH. When you take chemistry, you'll realize this is an ending of a lot of acids. That's why it's called an amino acid. What about this R group? Well, look up element R. Did you look it up? There's no element R. Okay, this is the random group. So the different things that are off here make the 20 different amino acids that exist. And it lets you know what amino acid you're looking at. I'm pretty sure when I was in college, I had to memorize the structure of the 20 different amino acids and their names. So look forward to that. If you're like, yeah, I want to be doing something with science when I grow up. It wasn't so bad. I don't remember them now. So, yeah. All right. Well, we can connect this to like real life. We'll do this in class. We'll talk about like diabetes and heart disease and stuff because all of these things kind of affect what goes on in our body, how we take them in and how our body processes them. So we're going to stop for now. There's tons more, but I would recommend watching this video in like little chunks because I think it's a long one. I should have said that at the beginning. If I had a video editor, it could be at the beginning, but it's not. I'll just let you guys know in class. All right, well, if you have questions, if you want to know more, let me know. I hope this helps. I really do. All right, you guys have a great day. I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.